Good afternoon. Good afternoon and good morning for who joining from the US continent. Welcome. On behalf of PLG, we are really glad to have you with us today for our webinar. Whether you're joining us from near or far, thank you for being here today. My name is Umaima and I'm a key account manager in PLG working in the sales team. Our goal is to stay closely to our client to meet their needs through the expertise of our dedicated regulatory compliance team. PV, pharmacovigilance, is a historic and key activity for the PLG group. We support over 100 of our clients to ensure regulatory compliance in this field. Basing on our experience, basing on our expertise, we're going to dive into a really exciting topic today, key consideration when building an LSO program. So please do not hesitate to drop your question in the Q&A session throughout the session. We've dedicated also some time at the end of the webinar that where we are very happy to address them. Our speaker, who I'll let introduce themselves shortly, will share their insights, will share their experience and practice tips. Lucy and Beth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Umaima. Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Shalish. I'm the head of PV account management in North America for PLG, but work closely with Lucy and others on the global infrastructure. We're delighted to have you here today. I'm going to turn it over to Lucy for introduction, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Lucy?
Thank you, Beth. Hello, everyone. My name is Lucy Green, and I am our local safety and pharmacovigilance director here at Product Life Group. So I am responsible for all of our local safety programs that we have and for the overall accountability for all of our clients for which we provide these services. I'm based in the UK, and yeah, it's very nice to be able to present this topic to you today, which is something very close to my heart. Yeah, so the overall presentation will be key considerations when building a local safety officer or LPPV program, so we can provide our considerations and some knowledge regarding this topic. Okay, so in terms of the agenda, so we will first of all go over the importance of correctly building the LSO program. We'll then talk about some key considerations and some of the service offerings that we also can provide regarding these local safety outsourcing programs. We also have a section regarding a case study where we can present what we've currently done for a client and how we've supported them with some of our key solutions. And then finally, we'll go into Q&A where we can answer any questions and answers that you have regarding this topic. And as Umaima said, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat box throughout, and we will be sure to answer them at the end. So I'll hand over to you, Beth, to introduce.
Thanks so much, Lucy. So we wanted to talk just a little bit to start the presentation about the importance of the LSO program. Next slide, Lucy. I'm sure you have all had a keen interest in growing LSO programs. One of the reasons why you've joined us today. This seems to be a growing requirement within the PV industry, mostly because we're finding that no longer are marketing authorization holders choosing to just market in a very limited amount of countries. The trend now seems to be going towards global marketing, and as such, that brings challenges. In some countries, as you probably know, there are requirements that you have to have a local safety officer. In other countries, there may be no requirements, and in some it may be restricted requirements, meaning that sometimes they have to actually reside in the country. So some considerations as you move forward on your journey, that a good vendor, so PLG, as we work with clients, constantly look at the regs and be able to provide insight for our clients as to the requirements to make sure that the right LSOs are chosen for the program. The other reason for the importance of an LSO program we find is that the local presence is key to providing expert knowledge in the country. and to make sure that the marketing authorization holder is compliant with all of the global, local, European requirements, et cetera. Requirements, as you know, from a regulatory perspective, continue to change and are becoming more and more complex globally. So marketing authorization holders are relying heavily on the presence of an LSO in each of the different countries to serve in a consultancy capacity, providing information, et cetera, to help strengthen the program and ensure local compliance, which minimizes their risk. So these roles are really key strategic roles in addition to being knowledge experts for the marketing authorization holder. Obviously, by running a very strong, knowledgeable safety program locally, it helps to minimize the risk for the marketing authorization holder and for the public in general, because it ensures that there's good patient safety programs, that signals are recognized early, and that they're addressed to protect the public health. One of the things that we always hear a lot about from our clients is the role of the LSO to really support the marketing authorization holder to be the point of contact with the local regulatory authorities, serving as that local expert, attending inspections and audits, et cetera, from competent authorities. That local presence gives the marketing authorization holder a lot of confidence and support that their program is going to be moving forward with a great success and with high quality in the patient safety arena. So this is a significant initiative for most marketing authorization holders that has a lot of complexity. They rely heavily on the skills. Sometimes the LSOs may also conduct specific activities locally, such as local literature monitoring, in addition to being the expert in the region. I'm going to turn it over to Lucy now, and she's going to speak more about some of the considerations as you start building your LSO program. Lucy?
Thank you, Beth. Yes, so something that's very important when you start to think about your, whether you want to implement an LSO program and outsource potentially some of these services are looking really at your global footprint and how that can suit your future needs and the development of your company and your portfolio. So the first thing to consider is when you're looking at choosing a vendor, does the vendor have resources to fit the locations for your future growth? So this is really important because a lot of time and effort can go into selecting the right vendor and also potentially outsourcing for the first time or transitioning from different vendors to that chosen vendor. So you want to make sure that you're really choosing a partner which can, grow with you and take you on the journey as you progress throughout your future growth, I would say. So making sure that they can really fit your requirements in terms of global footprint. Something which is really key, and Beth touched upon in the previous slide, is about minimizing the risk. So something that's really important to consider when you're selecting a vendor is, are the services subcontracted or performed by a vendor or mix? Now, across the world, it's very difficult to find a vendor who can, source all of these countries and provide local services directly themselves worldwide, because there's many, many countries, all with different requirements and things like that. So looking for a potential vendor, though, who can cover quite a lot of the services internally is quite important, because then you know that they are able to provide that growth, and also looking if they're a company which can grow and expand in those areas. But also, if they do use vendors, then it's important just to make sure how are they maintained and what's the oversight. What quality do they have in place to make sure that they have the right qualification of their vendors, they're requalifying them, they have good oversight initiatives in place to make sure that they're, first of all, delivering the key deliverables as expected, but also meeting the quality expectations as well. So that's something important. And finally, something to consider is timelines for recruitment. So potentially then a service provider might be able to grow with you, so then recruit in those countries. But how long does it take them to do that? If you're looking at expanding into a new market or a new country, or as part of your product portfolio, how quickly can the vendor then support you with that and have people there to be able to provide the service in those local regions as local experts as well? So yeah, in terms of the global footprint, it's important to take all these factors into consideration. So at PLG, then we have a dedicated local safety platform, and we can provide an LSO program and an infrastructure which supports to maximize the global outsourcing of your needs for the local pharmacovigilance activities. So we have, when we develop our programs, we make sure that we have really strong governance in place right from the setup all the way through the maintenance of the program. And it's all underpinned by the direction of our local safety line of business. And having this structure in place means that as we perform the activities and we transition the activities into the program for you, then we can meet the compliance with the local requirements, which is one of the key aspects of a local safety program, because all of the local legislation in all the countries can differ, have different requirements regarding qualification, residency, and things like that. So it's important to have, first of all, the local experts, and to making sure that we're compliant with those regulations as well. We put in place regional coordination. So we have a role that's called the LSO coordinator, and I'll go into that in more detail on the next slide. And these coordinators are really responsible for the oversight of the activity in a particular region or territory. And this ensures that, first of all, there's a point of contact with the client that is at a regional level, so they can, on a day-to-day basis, connect with someone. But also it means that we can have oversight of a region and all of our local contacts in that region, and collate the information that's coming from those local contacts into one report for you, into one harmonized structure for you, so that you have really one point of contact that you need to go to, rather than multiple vendors or multiple affiliates and things like that. So we can really provide that collation and oversight regarding a local territory. Something which we find is important for our clients as well is to try and, as much as we can, harmonize the activity across the program. So one of the challenges which our clients often face is the fact that we have the global headquarter, and then there's all their local affiliates, but they are all doing slightly different things. And the global doesn't always have the oversight on exactly what they're doing and how those systems have been implemented. So we often work with clients in order to put structures in place like this LSO program, where it means that they can then harmonize what's happening at the local affiliates with us as a vendor, meaning that they then have better oversight of the case reporting, or the process of how the cases are reported and things like that, so that they can have oversight on the activities. So focusing in on the LSO coordinator, which is what I mentioned in my previous slide. So these are some of our key people when we're setting up an LSO program, because they are people that have the PV technical experience to be able to deliver the services and coordinate the team doing the local services as well. And they have the scientific background needed, which is relevant for their pharmacovigilance activities. But also, very importantly, they are client orientated, have very good communication skills, are able to organize and coordinate the teams efficiently, so that we can fulfill the services that we need to at a regional level, and you feel comfortable that we are able to oversee them as well. So they're really people which become very important for the regional teams to have that point of contact. And we find that it helps that they have that one place they can go to and then find out about lots of different countries. So that, again, it minimizes the complexity when they're setting up their system as well. So some further considerations when looking at an LSO outsourcing program. So it's really important that, yes, you have a strong governance structure and you have a good transition and a setup of the program. But actually, the most important and crucial thing is that at a local level, you also have what's in place that's needed to meet the regulatory requirements. So one of the key things which does differ in different countries are the regulatory requirements for the local contact person or the local pharmacovigilance needed for each country. So, for example, the location of the local contact person. Not all countries in their legislation require that the local contact person is established in the country. Sometimes they just need to speak the language or have the qualifications needed, but without the residency. So this is something which we have good knowledge in, to be honest, because we have programs which are spanning multiple countries worldwide, and our experts know the local legislation to be able to say whether the person is needed in the country or not. It also means that we can potentially cluster some countries with other countries if, for example, you only need to have the location in one country, but the other two countries, you just need the language, and we can find someone that can provide all of that for you as well. So again, that reduces down the complexity of the program which we're setting up. Something which I've touched upon already is having a well-established transition and change management plan, because this really helps to minimize the risk as you're outsourcing, I would say. So some clients we work with have never outsourced before. So this is the first time. They could be a new MAH launching a product in Europe, or they could have always done it internally and this is their first time outsourcing. But equally, other clients are looking to transition from one vendor to another in order to have one vendor doing all the services, or choosing PLG as their preferred vendor. So having this transition and change management plan really minimizes the risk of the transition, because that it's really crucial to set that up and have good collaboration with the MAH about exactly the scope, exactly when they want it, what timelines they've already got agreed, what contracts they've already got in place, so we can build that plan with you and make sure that everything runs as efficiently as possible as you transition that work towards PLG. Again, the regulatory requirements is crucial to underpin a compliant LSO program. So having local experts that know the local regulatory requirements, the language requirements, the educational requirements, whether there's 24/7 availability, the process for supporting with additional risk minimization measures in that country, all of that is really crucial to making sure that you have a compliant LSO program, and it's really important to find those local experts that can provide that. In order to ensure business continuity, we would always have a backup system in place. So whether this be a deputy LPPV or some sort of backup system, amongst the team, because there's always going to be periods of absence, like due to sickness or leave, where the main LPPV or local contact person needs to have someone to support in their absence. So we would always ensure that we have that in place as part of our program, just so that we can always deliver a good quality service. So it's then important as well to consider exactly what services do you want to outsource. So it could be that you want all the local services to be outsourced. So the local contact person, the local case management, local literature, and all the whole range of local activities. Or it could be that you want to keep some of that oversight internally, where you already have internal staff, or potentially you have distribution agreements where your distributors are doing some of the activities which you want to keep in place. So it's important to think about the range of services that you can do. At Product Life Group here, we can do all the services, but again, we work with you at the start to be able to outline the scope and also adapt with you as your LSO program grows, because the scope could change, especially if the program spans, 3 to 5 years, then we evolve and develop with you depending on what you need. And finally, I would say one very important consideration is to ensure good partnership and collaboration. Establishing good communication from the start is key as well, because, a lot of where we have programs which are in multiple countries, a lot of the responsibility is then outsourced to PLG. So in terms of providing trust, we make sure that we establish a really good communication pathway with the clients. first of all, in terms of just the operation of the program, but also to escalate any risks to make sure that they're mitigated quickly and we can resolve them efficiently. But we also work with you to customize your program as well. So we make it really adaptable to what you need at this specific time, how we can grow with you, how strategically we can support you as well, and develop this partnership with you as we move through the progression of the program. So as I mentioned, here at Product Life Group, then we have our local safety platform. So as part of our offering, then we are able to provide local services, local safety and pharmacovigilance services worldwide. So this includes having the main nominated contact person, whether it be the local contact person, the local QPPV, depending on the different countries. And we can offer the 24/7 availability, which is needed for as per the local legislation as well. So these local contact points would then have oversight of the local PV system, and we would make sure there's a backup system in place for the business continuity. We would ensure that there's always, periodic and documented communication between the what we're doing, so the local services that PRG are providing, back to the MAH. There's always an oversight of what's happening at the local level, so that you feel comfortable that you have the oversight, even though you've outsourced that responsibility to PRG. Something which is really important is to maintain awareness of the local regulatory requirements or any updates on the local health authority websites regarding your products. So this is something which we would do. We could support to monitor the local authority websites and provide any updates to you in an immediate manner, so that these can be actioned accordingly, depending on what it is, whether it's a legislation update or something about the safety profile of your drug. Our local experts have vast experience in audits and inspections, which can happen locally or from a global perspective as well. So making sure always that we are ready for audits and inspections, but also being able to participate them, as in certain countries it's necessary for the local contact person to be that main point of contact for a local inspection. So they're able to provide the support needed in the region. Something that's important as well is that, especially within Europe, then it's important that the local contact network supports the EU QPPV, because obviously the EU QPPV is the kind of head of the QPPV system, the PV system, within Europe. And as part of the legislation in GDP, then they need to have an oversight of the local contact. So it's important that the EU QPPV is also in Europe kind of involved in the LSO program and gets the support from our local network to be able to provide them support. We can provide training, and also all of the more operational activities, so potentially local medical information, processing of the local ICSRs, so supporting with translation of those documents and populating, into AE forms or initial intake screens in your database. Our team have experience in that. Also, certain health authorities require submission of the ICSRs in local language and via local portals. So our teams are expert in that, specifically in places like the LATAM region or the CIS region. I know that they have local portals, and this local translation is a requirement. Again, supporting with aggregate report writing or review of the aggregate reports that are coming through, and submission of those to the local health authorities as well. Because in certain regions, then, for example, the PSUR needs full translation into the local language, and then submitting via a local portal, which would be managed by our local contacts. And we always make sure we have in place a technical agreement or safety data exchange agreement, depending on if the client wants us to have that, which outlines all of the roles and responsibilities, and also crucially how the safety data is going to be transferred as well, and what timelines it will be done to make sure that we fulfill all of the activities needed, and there's oversight from you as well to be able to measure the compliance that we have to those activities. So I touched upon it in my last slide, but we've been talking a lot here about the local pharmacovigilance activities. And yes, it's important to have those in place, but one of the things that's really important is to make sure that the global headquarter or the global QPPV is aware of what's happening at a local level. And that's really something which is important within our LSO program. So we have all these things in place at a local level, so we can maintain the local regulatory updates, we can make sure there's local compliance, we can do the local ADR reporting. But what we make sure is that all of that information is fed back to the global team, because ultimately they have the oversight. You know, the MAH at the global perspective has the oversight on what's needed to make the compliant PV system, not just globally, but also locally. So something which we make sure is that we, you know, provide all of that information and really connect with the global team to make sure that it's supporting them really. And that's the whole purpose of this, and making sure that they have a compliant system across the board for all of their local activities. And that's something that they can trust in PLG to do. Okay, so those are some of the key considerations and our offerings. So finally, now what I'd like to present is a case study. So this is an example of a client that we work with, and what I'd like to present is the context, some challenges that, you know, the client was facing and how we helped to support them, but really our key solutions at PLG and how, you know, if you partner with us, then we can, you know, really provide a solution for you for your local outsourcing needs. So this company, we set up a global affiliate outsourcing program. So we provide local pharmacovigilance activities in over 40 countries worldwide. So from Europe to Middle East, North Africa, then JPAC, and also Americas, including LATAM. And the real goal of this client was that they wanted to increase efficiency and also have a harmonized process across their organization. Because as I said before, like what they were finding is that a lot of the local affiliates were doing things in their own way, and they didn't really have the oversight or knowledge about the systems they were using, how they were doing it. So they really wanted us to bring us in to help collaborate with them and to then help all the affiliates harmonize together where possible, for, you know, some of the processes which they wanted to do and have the oversight. So one of the main challenges that we foresaw, or we could foresee when we set up the program, was it to ensure a seamless transition of the local activities, because this particular client, different affiliates had different setup. So some already had vendors and we had to transition, and others had never outsourced before. So we really had to adapt to each affiliate as well, and to work with them to make sure that the transition was really compliant in each region. And also to make sure that we evolved with the scope of the local activities, because initially then, you know, only parts of the scope of activity were outsourced, but as we progressed with them, then they wanted to slightly change the scope or develop it and things like that. So we worked with them to adapt the solution. So what we were able to deliver and offer was the geographical coverage. So PLG, we can provide local expertise worldwide using either our in-house experts or some of our qualified partners across the world. So the program was built using our network. We put in place a robust transition plan with several waves in it and lessons learned at the end of each wave to make sure that we really built like a strong roadmap as the project and program rolled out, I would say, to make sure that we were constantly evolving. We put in place a project management team with a strong governance structure with the correct hierarchical escalation points, so that we could make sure that at each stage of the setup, then yes, we had the LSO coordinators in place to coordinate the day-to-day setup, but at more of a strategical level, we then had counterparts with the MAH to make sure that they, you know, we could ensure the activities were being completed, and really reviewing kind of the lessons learned and seeing how potentially we could make that more efficient as we moved on to the next wave. And overall, we monitor the quality and performance. We have dashboards, and we make sure that we take any corrective action needed to mitigate any risks as they come about. Yeah, so key solutions. So as I mentioned, one of the key things that we did was had our experienced local experts that we implemented into the program. We had a quick and efficient setup regarding the operating models. So we put in place the transition plan, but one of the things was that certain countries needed to set up quite quickly. So we worked to, make sure that we did that compliantly, even though the timelines were short, just to make sure that it met the timelines with potentially termination of vendor contracts and things like that. But at the same time, we weren't minimizing the quality of what we were delivering. Something that we really feel is a key asset of PRG is that we are attentive and reactive to the client's needs. So this has been some key feedback as well, that whenever there was a request made or an issue escalated, we really dealt with it in a really quick and efficient manner, that the client felt supported throughout the whole transition, but also now it's in maintenance phase, because making sure that they were our priority and we could adapt whatever they needed where they requested it. And we also have a dedicated innovation group. So we have this group which can, work with clients to develop innovative technology solutions, some of which we already have established, but also others where potentially the client's looking for something and we can discuss with our innovation team if that's something that we can support them with or help to increase efficiency within their PV system. And finally, the key solution really for this one was to ensure the harmonization of the local PV activities. So to put in place like a really strong technical agreement, which was used globally across the whole program, which made sure that all affiliates were following the same structures outlined by the global, but then with local specificities detailed in further local agreements as well, so that the key local affiliates had also a place to detail their specificities. So yeah, that was just a snapshot into one of the programs, just to provide you a case study and of how PLG offered our solution towards the LSO program. So that concludes our presentation. I hope you enjoyed listening to the presentation, but now we're going to open up for the Q&A. So Umaima, I think that you have the Q&A, if there is any already.
No, I don't have any question. Please feel free to write your question if you have. We are very happy to answer your question. Hope that the presentation was interesting.
If no one has some questions, if you would like to type in some of your experiences that we can share with the group, that would be great too. Some considerations that you found that maybe we did not mention. It would be a good sharing experience.
Yes, thank you, Lilia. So a question asked by Madame Chieb. Hello, thank you for this presentation. Would it be possible to share the list of countries that you cover in PLG? So Lucy, you can reshare the footprint of PLG.
Yeah, so on one of our slides, yeah. Yeah. So in dark blue is the territories that we can cover, and in the light blue are regions that we can cover with potential qualified partners. Yeah. So you can see across the world, like globally, we do have people located in lots of regions in the dark blue, so we're able to offer the services in those regions, I would say. But really what we like to say is that we can really offer it worldwide, because even if there's a region, as you can see in light blue, where we can't offer it internally with our own staff, then we do have a network of qualified vendors that we utilize, and we use them, and we are able to provide the services through those, so we can offer the full LSO program.
And if you have any specific additional questions regarding any of the countries, et cetera, for your particular needs, our email addresses are on the link to the slides, so we're happy to answer them for you after the presentation.
I hope we answer your question. Yes, great. Thank you so much.
I think we have Sarah writing a question.
Anyone else have comments about their experience with an LSO program? Because one of the things that I think is most important in these webinars is to learn from each other. So if you have any thoughts on things that you've encountered or you're thinking about as you're starting off in your journey on LSO, please do put them in the chat, because again, it's a good way to learn from each other. Okay, so I guess, I'm wondering if there are no more questions or comments, or maybe it looks like a couple just showed up, maybe, no more.
No more question. In any case, we will be at your disposal to answer your question after this session. So feel free. Our marketing team will share with you the slide deck, and you will have all our contacts in the slide deck. So do not hesitate to ask your question. We will be more than happy to answer them.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. It's been a pleasure. We appreciate your time and sharing our expertise in the LSO program with you. And we hope you all have a great day.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.